Orchard Road, our most popular shopping district, and a plethora of options to fill your belly. But what did Orchard offer diners in the 1960s? I'm here to find out a lot more about the ambience, the sounds, the smells, the foods, the people. My name is Ivan. I'm a chef and restaurateur. I'm interested to find out what the dining scene was like in the 1960s, before Orchard Road became what it is today. In order to create a multi-course dinner experience that captures those flavors on a plate. I'll meet people who will share their intimate food memories.
Going there for supper every night. So it's packed
All the way
every
until
night.
what time? Like 2 a.m., 3
Oh,
a.m.?
I don't know lah. Thank God I didn't stay out so late.
Taste dishes that would have been served in the 1960s.
Bon appétit.
It's quite a feast. And give these flavors a new and modern twist, Ivan style. Why am I interested in the 1960s? My parents always told me that it was the wild, wild west. They made it seem like Orchard was an unruly place they avoided when they were growing up. So during my teenage years, this happening area was out of bounds for me, even as my peers were hanging out at spots like Far East Plaza and Hirin. When I got older, I realized that all their anecdotes about Orchard probably meant that they hung out there as teens. Now I think I completely missed out. If Orchard was special for my generation, how significant was it for my parents? What was Orchard really like in the 60s? The Orchard precinct from Tanglin to Dhoby Ghaut once looked like this. Its name first appeared on a map in 1844, when it was just a countryside filled with spice farms and fruit orchards. And the street names today are a legacy of this past. Cuppage, Carnhill, and Claymore, who owned nutmeg orchards. Scott, who cultivated fruits like durian and rambutan. But a sweeping nutmeg canker disease wiped out all the orchards by 1862. Then, the precinct started to change. First, the infrastructure. Next, people started moving in. Finally, commerce boomed. The Orchard Road Market in 1891. And the first supermarket cold storage in 1903. Where there are people, there will be businesses to feed them. So where did everyone eat in Orchard? In the 60s, it must have been on the streets. I found pictures of push carts, street vendors, and one place sticks out. Named Glutton Square by the government, but the locals just called it carpark. Located at 181 Orchard Road, it was an ordinary parking lot by day and makeshift food affair by night. Could this be our first iteration of what we now know as the hawker centre? I meet with someone who lived here in the 60s to find out more.
My char kway teow man will be here. And that time you can bring your own eggs, you know.
Really?
Yeah, because to fry the char kway teow with eggs is more expensive. So you bring your own eggs, so it's cheaper. Iceball uncle is here. Rojak man is here.
Here's Auntie May, a true blue Orchard girl who grew up on the iconic road till the 70s. So we're going to find out from her a little bit more about the real story and the real sights and sounds of Glutton Square.
So that is like the place. A lot of people go there in the night. Like me, after my work, you know, I would be calling my girlfriend and then we'll meet there, practically going there for supper every night. So it's packed.
All the
every
way until
night.
what time? Like 2 a.m., 3
Oh,
a.m.?
I don't know lah. Thank God I didn't stay out so late. You know, maybe the nightclubbers people would go there.
So what are the kind of foods that you really missed from carpark?
The first stall is the mee goreng man, Indian uncle selling the mee goreng. He's got this lamb hanging up from his stall, you know, raw meat, no?
Wow.
Then you want to buy a mee goreng with mutton. Then he cut the lamb and then he fry it together. That's this Zarabat stall, the man that sells the tea, and there's this Indian Mee Siam. I love to eat that Indian Mee Siam. So subsequently after that, I couldn't find it anymore.
I find it very hard to draw the line between Indian Mee Siam and the Malay Mee Siam. What's the main difference
The
for
main
you?
difference in Indian Mee Siam is that it has got coconut cream.
Right.
Malay Mee Siam, Peranakan Mee Siam,
It's more
all Assam.
based, yes.
Indian Mee Siam has got coconut milk. And the other thing is this low kai yek.
Okay.
Low kai yek. This one is an Emerald Hill. He would pedal, he comes in a bicycle with a huge cauldron behind his bicycle, big cauldron. It's got low kai yek, it's got kangkong, it's got pig skin, egg, cuttlefish.
Yeah.
I think intestine also. You know the Teochew cooks in this brown sauce. This man, his sauce is pink in color.
Right.
I've not actually found this dish anywhere. You know, even though I...
It might have been 60 years ago, but the favorite dishes of May's youth remain as vivid as ever. The most difficult part for me to really digest is the lokai egg, because my understanding for lokai egg was very different. And Auntie May mentioned about the pink stew with slightly different ingredients that were used in the dish. Indian Mee Siam and lokai egg. Maybe I can reinterpret them for my upcoming dinner experience. I'd better find someone who can help shed more light in the kitchen. Enter Chef Damien, Master Chef and guardian of lost recipes. He'll teach me how to cook a proper lokai egg.
What are you thinking right now?
I'm just thinking about what do you eat this only. I'm not thinking about anything else. So how long have you been cooking this already for?
2 days.
2 days?
Yeah.
Choice, kway chap or this?
This. Kway chap cannot touch this, I'm telling you. There's no comparison to this.
So what exactly is lokai egg?
It's actually a stew that's been braised for a really long time. Lo mei is the other name for it, which is probably the original name.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's a dish that has its origins in Guangdong. And the key ingredient, well, there are many key ingredients, but I think the one that makes it, that gives it its flavor and color is the nam yi. You've got to use good nam yi. That's the key thing.
Right.
There's also tao jiao. You know, it's very simple, but it requires cleaning the remnants from your intestines and what have you. And I think that's the biggest put-off for most people.
No, but in the first place, is the intestines like a must-have in the soup, does it?
Yeah, because everything has got a different texture.
Right.
The ears will give you that grizzle and will give you that bite.
Yeah.
The heart has got a firmer texture, but if you cook it long enough, it almost just shreds. Your pork belly, again, because of the fat, and you must have fat, right? So when you bite into it, it almost like breaks down together with the fat. It's a peasant's dish, you know?
Dish.
Yeah. So it's almost like everything that was cheap and nobody wanted, we used it.
So the other thing that we've been talking about was the Indian Mee Siam.
Indian Mee Siam is a very new Indian dish, okay?
Yeah.
I always said that Mee Siam is should be Singapore's national dish. And it is actually colored to give it that pink color. I do have taste memory for this dish. So I can tell you, go with a curry powder that is not spicy. Use a garam masala to be safe.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, so this is the famous lokai you've been hearing about. It's actually quite cool because you finally get to see the actual thing instead of imagining it. I can see why it is actually one of the most popular dishes. Actually, I have problems speaking because the smells are incredible. Massive plethora of textures in this whole dish. So I just can't wait to dig in right now. I'm gonna do the cartilage. I love the cartilage. It's easy why you can do this with a bowl of rice. The soup is thick. It's just the perfect textures. You can take a look at this. Perfect dish. I also found a hawker stall that sells their own version of the Indian Mee Siam. So I'm going to be tasting this for the first time. And the first smell that kind of greets me is there is this very strong pungence of the dried shrimp. It's sweet, slightly sour, but this sourness is mostly from the lime. Wasn't what I was expecting in terms of what you get from an actual mee siam, a Malay mee siam or Peranakan mee siam, where they use more asam. I suspect a little bit of this belacan is going on. I'm also expecting some turmeric flavors as well, but it's quite balanced, really. So now, as a chef, to recreate this dish, I probably have to work a little bit more on the garam masala, which Chef Damien actually shared with me about as well. So if we were able to tweak a special blend of the garam masala, I could basically call this my own version of the Indian Mee Siam. Here to help me create a bespoke spice blend is Jaya. This dude is a second-generation spice trader. Maybe he can give me some tips on how to make the perfect masala.
Mee Siam is a very savory dish.
Right.
So the moment you put in like garam masala, right, there's a lot of things going on at the same time.
Okay.
So you'll get a lot of flavors at the same time, like woody,
Right.
nutty, hot, because garam masala is made up of 7 different spices.
Oh yeah.
So what I would suggest is maybe just focus on one particular flavor you want to enhance, like savory or hot or spicy, and then we'll go from there.
I probably want a little bit of the color going as well, because one of the main features of the Indian Mee Siam is the bright red, right?
Okay.
So I thought maybe paprika or even go for the chilies.
Yeah, why
straight
not?
up.
I think paprika is a fantastic idea. Paprika,
Awesome.
right, does not give you the heat of normal chili powder, but it doesn't compromise on the color as well.
Okay, so let's play with a little bit of this spice.
Sure. So my magic ratio is this: 1 teaspoon of fennel,
Okay.
3 teaspoons of cumin. Yeah, it gives you a more floral, sweety taste,
Yeah.
fennel. But cumin is a bit more earthy.
Earthy.
Yeah. Chili powder doesn't go wrong. Right? This one you can be generous.
When in doubt, put more, huh?
Yeah, put more.
So I got my own flavored spices right now, okay, with the courtesy of Jaya helping me. So this is now my own unique blend. Hopefully I can create my own, I don't know, Mee Siam Ivan, I don't know what it's called. And of course, my favorite is the asam. I think it's a very necessary ingredient in Indian Mee Siam as well. So I really want to create a very strong flavored one. So this good balance of sour and spice and a little bit of sweetness, of course. And to add on to the lemak, the coconut that I want, I probably want to go for the fresh coconut milk. And probably just to modernize it a little bit, we can go a bit with a serunding or something like that into the rempah if it works out. So we're gonna do a little bit of R&D and see how that turns out. The two things that kind of get stuck in my mind with the Indian Mee Siam and the lokai egg, they're so distinct in terms of flavors. Lokai egg has one very unique ingredient, which is the cuttlefish, which is something that I might consider putting into Mee Siam to give it the elevation of the textures without affecting too much of the seafood balance that I want in the paste. I'm gonna work on the Mee Siam, and I think the Mee Siam has components that I want that's perfect for the appetizer. And of course, the most important, spices. But I hear that Orchard in the 60s wasn't just about local hawker foods.
The old American classics, plus the modern twist to it, to have the best of both worlds.
I come from a family of Teochew foodies. My grandmother had a kway chap store that specialized in pork offal broth. And my grandfather ran a food business. But I didn't intend to become a chef. I worked as a creative director for years, but couldn't shake off my love for food. So in my free time, I cooked for family and friends, and then more people wanted to taste my modern dishes inspired by my Teochew heritage. So I opened my own place. I believe that food feeds first the soul, then the senses. I've been given a challenge. Dive deep into the food scene of a district we all know well, Orchard Road, and host a 3-course meal that will throw back to the nostalgic food experiences of the 60s. Earlier on, I learned about Glutton Square, simply called Carpark by locals. A makeshift street dining venue of 80 stalls occupying an Orchard Road car park. It was the supper hangout. And guess what? The inspiration for one of the most iconic food places in Singapore today.
You know, the car park was an amazing place. It filled up at night, all kinds of people, all walks of life. You'd have the best char kway teow in Singapore. Whatever it is that you wanted to eat in terms of Singapore hawker food was available at the car park.
So when you guys took over La Plaza, was there something you guys were trying to capture from this experience that you had with car park?
We had to talk to the authorities and say, now, what we would like to recreate is the car park,
Oh, wow. Okay.
where stalls come out at night. In the daytime, we recognize that it's a busy thoroughfare.
Yeah, correct.
But at night, we'd like to bring the stalls out. We'd like to lay out tables and chairs and hopefully recreate some of the atmosphere of the old days.
While researching Glutton Square, I stumbled upon something curious. A painting by local artist Lee Boon Wang and a wood in the far left catches my eye. Is that Magnolia, our local milk brand? It turns out, across the road from Glutton Square was the Magnolia Snack Bar, or as it's more popularly known, the Magnolia Milk Bar. It was one of the first few spots in Orchard that sold Western favourites. Located at 186 Orchard Road, between Emerald Hill and today's Centre Point, Magnolia was the original cool hangout. It may be gone now, but the Broadway diner at Capital Kempinski still pays homage by serving milk bar classics like burgers and milkshakes with a modern twist. F&B director Miladen tells me more.
Well, it started basically when I came first time in Singapore 2018. So it's super new for me, and I went obviously in a cab. So we were driving, and obviously we had a friendly chit-chat. And then he was telling to me that there was one snack bar called Magnolia. And we say, hey, why we don't recreate the same outlet as it was there? So we just want to contribute to the history and as well to put back something what was really important for the Singapore citizens at that time. We find just kind of pieces and bites of the menu, which was served that time. But then I had the luck, actually. We were Googling, we were trying to search, and we find the food critic who was actually reviewing the venue. And this was actually Miss Violeton. She brought the memory, and she came with other two ladies, and all of three were actually there, and they were dining regularly. Because originally we were thinking it was just a milk bar. So they had milkshakes, ice cream, and similar. But then we discovered that was actually much, much more from it. They were serving like classical English breakfast. They were having some kind of super crazy milkshakes for that time, of course, called Rickenbacker.
Okay, so I've seen some of these old photos as well. So this place is almost the exact replica, right? You still have the booth seats, you know, and similar tiles and everything else.
We look into the designs. All the chairs and fabrics are actually custom-made only for this outlet because we were trying to recreate that feeling. I was passing by here, and the team was serving the milkshake, strawberry milkshake, to the couple, you know, and they were kind of older generation and had two straws, and I said, oh, so cute, so romantic, you know. So I asked the staff, they told me, hey, they told us that they actually been to the Magnolia, and this is where they met and they get married, so they heard about it, so they came back. So it was super, super interesting. Of course, you don't see it every day, but it was a super nice experience to see something like that.
Magnolia's Knickerbocker glory was a menu mainstay for years. A layered British ice cream sundae with made-in-Singapore Magnolia ice cream. This is Broadway Diner's tribute to that. Taking one of our local desserts, the chendol, they transformed it into a decadent milkshake chock full of red beans, pandan jelly, gula melaka, and coconut flakes. Magnolia was also famous for their hamburgers, and head chef Douglas shows me their version of it, which looks like an upgraded Ramly burger.
So this is our homemade beef patty.
So what are the cuts that you'll be using for this beef?
Chuck, brisket, beef fat.
All right.
That's it. How many percent I can tell you?
No, of course not. I had no idea that Magnolia Milk Bar was kind of the first time American culture was seeded into life in Singapore. And it left such an imprint on older customers who still wish to relive that nostalgia today. If I want to create a dinner experience that brings back the same memories, I will need to understand what it was like to dine at Orchard in the 60s and what other restaurants existed at that time. I'm meeting Sylvia, food writer and guru on our foodie heritage.
Well, there's a whole segment here about, milk bars, Oh, I've got a good story to tell about Chef Salad. There was a restaurant called Salad Bowl at Cold Storage.
Okay.
I had a group of friends, and we used to meet every week at Salad Bowl, and we ate through the menu. I don't know how many Chef Salad I had.
So what is this? It's just basically ham,
Cold meats.
Yeah, cold meats,
And
right.
lettuce.
Okay.
And cabbage and a whole lot of mayonnaise. And that was the Chef Salad.
That's a terrible chef.
I know. Everybody went on dates to Magnolia Milk Bar. So it was like quite hip to have Western food at that time.
Right. So inherently, it's very how to say it? It's very deeply rooted in all the youth cultures of that timeline.
Yes, it was. It was.
But where do you think that these influences are coming from?
There was the colonial population,
Right.
and mostly British.
Right.
And they employed a lot of Hainanese cooks.
Okay.
And the Pranakans employed a lot of Hainanese cooks. They learned Western food and they learned Pranakan food. So they were in a prime position to marry these two cultures.
Right.
You had the rise of the hotel coffee houses.
Right.
You had the Hainanese restaurants.
Yeah.
And then you had more Western type establishment, like the pubs. We had
Okay.
pubs, Foster's and all of them,
So my conversation with Sylvia has been a complete eye-opener. I only realized after talking with Sylvia that Western foods were injected through the Hainanese in Singapore. So that got me a little bit thinking because there must be some remnants of this going on and I've done some research and I realized that there's only one restaurant like that in Singapore and that's Foster's Steakhouse. Located at 15 Orchard Road, Foster's Steakhouse was on the ground floor of the now demolished Amber Mansions. The only Hainanese-influenced steakhouse that started in Orchard Road left standing today. Thanks to owner Mr. Chua, who keeps the menu tight to its 60s roots.
This is the old Foster's, what it used to be
At Amber Mansion.
at Amber Mansion. Yeah. What man knows about woman?
This is a wicked Brit humor.
Yeah, but everyone knows about Foster's.
So
Those were the
which
era.
were the areas you were hanging out at mostly?
The whole structure. Now, what happened was that when I was young, after school, we used to go to my father's office, just next to Foster's at Amber Mansion.
Okay.
And this was the most popular Western restaurant in town. So it was quite a nice, niche space. I mean, they serve good Hainanese, English Hainanese
English
food.
Hainanese, okay.
When I started working, the company that was doing the advertising for our company, this guy who was in charge of the account came up to me one day and says, Mr. Chua, you want to buy my wife's restaurant?
Okay.
So I said, what restaurant? So he mentioned Foster's. So I thought, well, not bad idea, right? I was bachelor then, I said, why not? I have my own kitchen, I can go and eat what I want to eat. Finish enough. So I bought the whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel. It's just for sentimental reason that I'm keeping this restaurant. Because in Singapore, there's not many British pubs called Field anymore.
If I want a full Brit or the old Foster's style kind of food, which one would you recommend?
So many.
So many? I've only one stomach. It's not common to see bubble and squeak.
Precisely.
We'd like to share a little bit more about this dish.
So bubble and squid is actually, a vegetable dish. And not many people knows about it. It's really a traditional British food.
Like what goes in there?
Mixed vegetable, right?
Mashed potatoes in a patty served with salad.
Right.
Yeah.
Not many places serve that at all. you know.
Right.
Not even Raffles Hotel.
So which part of the dishes were fusion in terms of the British to the Hainanese mixtures of
Well, I recall the corned beef rice.
corned beef rice, okay?
It's amazing. It was actually fried rice, but you use corned beef and eggs, and things like that, onions, and it's a fabulous dish.
How would it taste like? Is it salty, sweet? What? Because corned beef, typically there are two types, right? The canned ones and then I'm assuming not the canned ones.
I'm sure it's the canned one. It was fried just nice. The taste was excellent.
So I've got the opportunity to kind of speak with a couple of people already with regards to my exploration on the history of Orchard Road. So they gave me kind of a little bit of the snippets into what Orchard Road is like in the 1960s. I'm personally very interested in the corned beef fried rice, how it would taste. So I probably want to explore a little bit on that would immediately throw them into the environment of the old days. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do.
Smells good.
Yes, very good. This is not something you expect from a Russian restaurant. I've been tasked to look into the history of food in Orchard Road during the 1960s. In order to host a multi-course dinner that takes people back to that magical era. Now, I'm moving from street foods and casual dining to fine dining. The 60s was when Singapore opened up to the world. Hotels and restaurants started popping up in Orchard. So what dining options were there for tourists and the well-heeled? Troika restaurant. A restaurant filled with charm and lively elegance, and places to savor gourmet cuisines and the most select of wines. At 541 Orchard Road, Liat Towers, Troika was a premium fine dining restaurant, the go-to place for a fancy night out. It even hosted a crowd of 1,000 on opening night. But here's something unexpected. They served Russian fare. Troika might have closed down in the 1980s, but there's always this iconic restaurant. Meet Alan. His father worked in Troika, and he now continues its recipes and traditions in shashlik with his brother, Derek.
Troika was started in 1963, and it was founded by a Shanghainese man by the name of Mr. Tang. Yes, Shanghainese. Okay. But then he only managed to find one Russian chef, but he couldn't find enough or at all Russian cooks. Eventually, he managed to find a group of people who actually have experience working on Russian ships in the Russian kitchen, and these were the Hainanese chef.
Was the setting something very fine dining based?
It was through and through a fine dining restaurant. They used very high-end cutlery and crockery, fine linen.
So, shashlik of yours, you're still serving this Russian Hainanese foods, right? So what are the dishes that are on the menu that kind of exemplifies that?
No, where do I begin? No. Do you have 5 hours worth of...
Okay, one. You only have one. You only have one. Alan's brother, Derek, helms the kitchen and takes me in for a quick tour.
This is the bosh.
The bosh, wow, is that thick?
There are some beetroots, carrots, and potato, which is more to our local taste. Yeah. And you're going to serve with a scoop of sour cream.
Okay, of course, the sour cream is a must-have.
We're going to marinate this signature dish, the shashlik of beef, with some Hainanese ingredient marination in it. As you can see, there's some soy sauce and...
Yeah, this is not something you expect from a Russian restaurant.
Yeah, that's correct.
Then what cuts of beef are you?
It's on tenderloin.
Oh, tenderloin. Wow, okay.
And it will be marinated for 24 hours for the seasoning to infuse into the tenderloin. So that's only for sauces or any other condiment for the season.
The shashlik is cooked medium rare. It makes me think of the Persian culture and shish kebabs that must have influenced Russian cuisine. But its marinade is definitely Chinese, and the cubes remind me of our local satay. Yeah, it smells very, very good.
Thank you.
And it's definitely not something that you expect from a Russian profile.
Yeah.
The cooking wine and everything else is all there. There's a very strong smell of the soy sauce as well. Okay. Very tender, very juicy. Thank you, Chef.
Thank you.
For the finale, they pull out their trademark showstopper dessert, their baked Alaska. There's like a slight tinge of cherry or something like that. It's a little bit fruity. I think flambés are not a Russian tradition, isn't it?
I would say that flambe is probably a tradition of this restaurant. And I see flambe as a fitting highlight to a good meal.
So I had a fabulous meal at Shashlik, very well hosted by the brothers, Alan and Derek. It's actually quite interesting because I was actually really expecting a full Russian meal, but I found that along the way, they've injected some American influence, they've injected some Hainanese influence. I really want to know what authentic Russian dinners are all about, or Russian feasts are all about. Olga. I met her on the event circuit, and I've heard of her exquisite home-cooked Russian meals fit for a Tsar.
I don't know the menu of Troika. I believe that they had a very sort of profound staples of the Russian cuisine.
For example?
For example, very, very, I would say, authentic. Probably it's definitely Russian salad.
Yeah.
Borscht, piroshki, and the salad mimosa. That these are really Russian. Russian meals or Russian feasts are usually very elaborate.
Feasts.
Yes, this is what you call feast. So I'm going to heat up for you. These are the piroshki that I was telling you about. You see, this is how they look, but I just want to warm them up and make them a little bit more golden, should say. Yes.
So what is it usually stuffed with?
Minced meat, a little bit of herbs, and they're usually a great accompaniment to Russian borscht. And this is a very typical Russian borscht. Smells good?
Yes, very good.
Sometimes you can make it vegetarian option, but I know that you're a growing man, so I made it with the meat.
Still growing, yes.
Do you eat beef?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so this
I eat everything.
You eat everything, so here you go.
So for you guys behind the camera, you have no idea what I'm smelling right now. It smells very sweet, vegetable-y, strong stock, all right? And it's a nice, what do you call it, the sharpness of I would say, tartness.
Welcome to the table, right?
It's quite a feast.
We have the Russian salad olivier. We have mimosa salad that you really helped me to finish up. We have borscht, and we have stuffed cabbage. And borscht we eat with piroshki. Okay, bon appetit.
Bon appetit. Okay, now I'm starting to understand the tastes of home-cooked Russian food, right? There's.
I'm glad.
I don't know how to put this into words. It's mostly ingredients processed with heart. It's the same taste that I can identify when my grandmother cooks the food, or somebody's grandmother or somebody's mother cooks the food in the kitchen. You know, the mother's flavor. That's what I call. The first takeaway from both Shashlik and Olga was the kebabs. And kebabs being one of the very dominant dishes in the Russian culture, it will coincide perfectly with what is also very popular on Platton Square, satay. And of course, the second one was borscht. The borscht by Olga and the borscht by Shashlik are totally different. It fits my Mee Siam concept perfectly well as an appetizer. So this is the direction I'll be heading for the final dinner. I'm creating a dinner experience that will summarize everything I've learned about the dining scene of Orchard in the 60s. I will invite guests, some who shared their knowledge with me to go down memory lane again, and some who were not born then to experience the 60s with fresh eyes. My previous career as a creative director means I'm all about experiential dinners, complete with the right environment and decor. And I know just the right carpenter to create a custom-built set. I basically want a table where I can actually house about 6 to 7 people to dine together. And I can be on the center stage where I can actually introduce all the items and also, interact with the diners, with my guests. So I think the best design so far in my head is basically a U-shaped counter like what we see in the Japanese izakaya. So this temporary structure should be able to support some weight, all right? So the idea is that this has to be assembled in the restaurant. Yeah, it will be assembled in the restaurant. And then the color's probably something darker, walnut color. Now all I've left to do is create a feast that incorporates the local, American, British and Russian influences seamlessly into one amazing dinner. Dining in Orchard Road in the 1960s was a smorgasbord of flavours. The smoky charcoal taste of street food, the exotic American milk bar classics, steakhouse fusion favourites, and delicate layers of Russian fine dining. All of this is coming together into my dinner for some lucky guests.
Okay, so we're going to do the fried rice. We can play with a bit of the mixtures of rice, add a little bit of deluxe into it. We can use Wagyu fat trimmings to give that little bit of that crisps. Foster's used to serve side plates of pickles. Okay, we can add like chopped up pickles, maybe a satay on the side. So this is all going to be made on charcoal. And I can actually include the patty idea from Chef Douglas. We used chuck tender and the rump, the magnolia milk bar. They weren't using typical American mayonnaise either. Okay, I think that's it. I got it.
I've discovered the food of the past, but what does the future of Orchard Road hold? Kelvin's here to tell us how he has plans to recreate another glutton square at the Grange Road car park.
I believe Orchard Road needs to be transformed, and how it's going to transform, especially for the Somerset cuisine, we feel that actually we should be very youth-centric. We will think of partnering with the best global and local partners. And if you know, Live Nation is the biggest events company, and the other partner that we have is Museum of Food. And they will come up with a 6-stage Instagrammable journeys to bring back all the sweet memories that people has in the Singapore food. History is something that we also want to actually instill into the project. Garden Square is one of the favorite places in the 1970s with a very good food history. And there's something that we want to actually sort of marry it together with the project, which we will actually bring in different kind of stores that actually is very relevant for the history and also the Singapore culture.
At the start of my journey, I had no idea that food in Orchard in the 60s influenced so much of our eating culture. From street paddlers and the first unofficial hawker centre called Carpark that conjured up favourites like logaik and Indian Mee Siam, to American fast food introduced to the Magnolia Milk Bar, fusion dishes served at Foster's Steakhouse, and the surprising existence of Russian cuisine at Troika. Now, it's time for me to create a dinner experience that captures it all. So we have managed just to clean up the entire space, right? Anticipating for the bar that we've designed to come in so we can house the guests tomorrow. I've never seen my restaurant so empty before. But it's going to be awesome because we have, I think this whole space is going to be very conducive for the whole dining experience. I've got my 2 chefs to help me execute tonight's omakase dinner.
This one I'll start doing now. I need to make patty now already. Take a look at beef, let's see in the marinade.
I do one final test run of my menu. I'm elevating a local hawker favorite, Indian Mee Siam, by adding some hints of Russian borscht in the sauce and using offcuts just like logaik, but with fish. Corned beef fried rice from Foster's made deluxe with Wagyu. Topped with a street satay meets Russian shashlik kebab. Cooked over charcoal for the smoky glutton square flavor. And for dessert, a deconstructed chendol but using local milk ice cream, just like the Magnolia Milk Bar. I'm taking a cue from shashlik to ramp up the drama. But instead of fire, I'm using ice. Mee Siam, temperature crank up. Make sure you raise the fire hot enough.
So,
You just let me portion out. Remember, we don't cook at the same time. Different timing. 6:15, the lard can go in. The pig fat. Double check on the ice cream. I got a feeling that the guy is the last one. It will be the Murphy's Law. So we are like 45-ish minutes away from the actual dinner, before the guests start arriving. So it's always the calm before the storm. But it's in the next 10 minutes or so, I think the storm will arrive. No matter how much prepared we are, certain things will always happen. Murphy's Law as usual. So we are doing this uniquely designed meal for them, and I hope they're going to enjoy it because I really did enjoy the process of designing this whole menu. Okay, thank you guys for coming, all right? I've actually prepared and especially curated, all right, a menu, a 3-course menu. We have actually gone through the entire journey of Orchard Road from the 1960s, and a lot of these food cultures that we have today are kind of taken for granted, and some of this are actually started from Orchard Road. Like everything else that goes through my hands, certain modernization will take place. Each dish basically summarizes each act in some certain sense. So this is going to be the fish dish. You guys are making me nervous. Indian Mee Siam is supposed to be a bit watery, but I love the textures of the borscht. So I made it a little bit thicker. I like the stew version. And there's actually an Alaskan cod in it, a belly that nobody wants. In Glutton Square, because everybody were poor, right, they use only the cheapest cuts to make the best of it and to serve to the customers. We smoked it, we changed it, we transformed it. To replace the sourness of it all, okay, we actually added fruits to it. So those little florets that you see, the green and the reds, are basically apples.
Oh my
The green apple for sourness and the tartness.
And you cover with edible flour on top.
Yes, the edible flour actually is like the final touch to lay claim. This is the Singapore food. So I thought this little flower looks a lot like the orchid. The interesting part is the stock is also made of cabbage.
Oh, really?
Yes, purple cabbage. And the noodles, the Mee Siam, is actually stained with this purple, same purple.
I love it. I love the texture. I love the mixture of the little elements of fruits, and I love the smoked fish.
You don't expect fish in a Mee Siam, but the fish itself is just excellent.
It's also quite unexpected because you kind of have it in your head like Mee Siam is supposed to taste a certain way.
So the corned beef fried rice, just a little bit of history. Mr. Chua, the owner of Foster's Steakhouse, fell in love with the corned beef fried rice. We have our own version right now, so I wanted to keep it on the skewer. It's also our take to the satay culture in Glutton Square.
My God.
This is the part of the cooking process that I enjoy, the little touches. Here you go. Here, enjoy, guys.
I love the fried rice. It's just so elegant, I should say.
I think Mr. CHOW will be very proud. He'll also be here drooling.
Yeah.
Over this dish.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Hot water, stand by, thank you. So the final thing that we're doing is actually chendol. All right, so this one's going to be a little slightly experimental. Right, so Magnolia Milk Bar, they got their milk from Hay Dairies in the past. I managed to get my hands on goat's milk. Goat's milk is creamier, much more flavorful. So I'm making chendol using this, so it's almost like ice cream. The black stuff, where it's usually Gula Melaka syrup, is actually replaced with Gula Melaka syrup together with our beer wort. So beer wort is basically the malts from the beer extracts that we use to make beers. Yes. It gives you a little nice floral notes. It's a little bit bitter as well, so that it's not overwhelmingly sweet. All right. So just make it a toss, just like how a traditional chendol would be, and it'll be a bit nice and messy.
Very nice. Licorice and sweet and yeah.
To the health, yeah, that's not right. To the health, to the health. Cheers. All right, so anyway,
the combination of all the different ingredients and the different cultures all mixed together and narrated by our amazing chef Ivan was fantastic.
They were so well thought out and like very complex in all of their flavors, and yeah, it was just nice to be able to summarize the entire like time period. I mean, so many years and an entire district into a complete meal.
Any favorite dishes out of all three?
I would think that he actually captured the mee siam quite well. That flavor kind of a little bit nostalgia. The flavor is there and things like that. So I just ate the mee siam on its own to get the taste. That was quite authentic.
So dinner's over, finally over. I think I'm very happy with the idea that that it kind of get the gist of what I'm trying to do, trying to recreate the space, trying to recreate the smells. But most importantly, with the takeaway from the journey with Orchard Road, it's a space I think I personally have taken for granted. I think with many Singaporeans have taken for granted as well. So many things started from there, so many stories that have not been heard, so many things have not been seen and forgotten. We got to look at a little bit more on these things that have been forgotten and try to re-educate ourselves again. And I think it will make us much closer to being what Singaporeans are all about, this Singaporean identity, what Singaporean foods are about, what we should be proud of with the hawker centres, with our food cultures in Singapore as well. Okay, so it's a wrap.